Hello, everybody. Um, I tell you like this. I've been thinking maybe a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months on what I would say in order to start off the new segment. And with all of that saying or whatever, it's been a while since I've had right. So I'm actually nervous up here as I'm trying to talk to you about different things. And so uh, just will give you um, some background information, and then we're going to get started. First of all, the name of the program is The World According to Martin, and of course, I'm your host, Nash, and that's Nash like Nashville, Tennessee. And and what I want to do first is go ahead and really just run through the outline real quick, and then from there, I'm gonna go through some of the items in a little bit more detail. And the goal is that this program shouldn't be any more than an hour. So if you have an hour to sit and chill, I'm gonna talk about some things, and I hope you enjoy what I have to say. So, so go through an intro. Then I'm gonna tell you about some of the work on personally. Give you some information, essentially trying to answer the question, why should you listen to me? Then I'm gonna give you my contact information. I'm gonna talk the concept, business financing, and how to get your projects. I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite topics, which is the project triangle. I'm gonna talk about time management. I'm gonna talk about costs and financial forecasting. I'm gonna talk about one of the topics I've talked about in one of my previous tapes, where I talked to you about the vision for your life and how do you work through that vision. I'm gonna talk about debt management, and then I'm gonna give you an outro and end with other stuff. So here's number one. Everyone needs some help with something. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a career, it could be a business, it could be children. There's more than enough self-help books out there. And what happened to me was, over the course of years, reading, I would be reading this book or that book. Like at the end of the book, I felt as if not giving me the tools that I needed in order to go out and do what I was trying to do. So in essence, what I'm trying to tell you is I felt a little bit hustled, and I'm pretty sure you have as well. The catchphrases, the secrets of success, or the information. So I'm not here to hustle you. Is what I'm trying to share with you the things that I've done wrong in hopes. And so, first, I want to give some information about me and the different things that I do and where I'm. And I've done that in previous tapes, but I'll be honest with you. Of all the things that I should be comfortable doing, comfortable talking about me, it's not really something I've always been comfortable. Because you know how it goes. Well, you tell you're pompous and arrogant, yada yada yada, and obviously it's not necessarily my particular personality. Um, I was raised here in Houston, Texas. Grew up in Third Ward over off of Scott and Leland, so that's on the other side of the 45, the 45 way. Went to Ruby L. Thompson or Southland, whichever one you probably remember, over off of what's that street? Over off of Yellowstone and in that area. Transferred to Dotson Elementary School. Went to Lanier Middle School, then to Lamar High School. Graduated from there. Went off into the military, U.S. Navy. Did that for. Came back to Houston. Went to University of Houston for undergrad. So my undergrad is in accounting. My graduate degree is from Houston Baptist University, which is a master's in accountancy and information technology. My associate's degree is in real estate. I just recently attained that. And I have a bunch of licenses that don't include the CPA. So Series 7, which means I could sell stocks, bonds. Series 6, mutual funds. Series 65 in the next month or so, which is investment advisor's license. So in other words, I have a bunch of licenses is what I'm getting at. Now, the reason why that's important though is, I'm trying to establish my background for you. Now, of course, your 2 minute spiel is a lot smoother than mine, but like I said, I have a little stage fright. Uh, and the reason why that's important, usually I don't like to talk about the aspect, primarily because um, I think we just wasted, 3, 4, 5 minutes just talking about me, talking about you, or me presenting information in order to do whatever it is you're trying to do. But for if you are a new business person, or you're thinking of a home-based business, or any venture where you're either going to be in leadership or you're going to be the one calling the shots, you have to get your 2 minute spiel down is what I'm getting at. So you just heard what a 2 minute spiel sounds like doing it the wrong way. Yours should be a lot smoother. And the whole point is that you're trying to establish credibility, but you're still trying to answer the most important question. Why should we listen to you? So it's like, I'm going to give you some information about me. I'm an artist, so it's like a rapper. Every rapper is like, oh, I'm the hottest rapper. Well, what makes you so hot? Which is the number one question that we're all trying to answer. Why should we buy this particular artist's CD over another artist's CD? What is it that makes them special? If you're trying to get a record deal or a distributorship deal or whatever, or a distribution deal, they're trying to understand, why should we listen to you? What makes you think that the public is going to want to buy your particular rap CD? All right, so that's why that 2 minute spiel is so important. I mean, of course, when we're looking at the big picture concept, we could talk in terms of, for your career, they call it a resume. Some resumes are chronological, some are content-oriented, or functional, whichever term you prefer. If you was an artist trying to get on a TV show, you might have a resume that it consists of, what type of projects you've done, what type of roles you've had, so on and so forth. If you're behind the scene and you do production, they call it a demo reel. That's where you show, hey, I worked on camera, or I worked on, I set up the lights, I did mood lighting. So everything is about how you present yourself to the public in a 2 minute spiel. So in other words, get your 2 minute spiel down. All right, so once, moving forward, the reason why this format is different than what I've done in the past is because I'm a content-oriented person, which means that we live in a society that likes pretty packages. And yes, I understand I'm supposed to give you a pretty package. But no, I'm not the pretty package type. I'm pretty sure you picked up on that. And what I mean by that is that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in editing on this because I want to get the content to you as fast as I can. And in the past, what I would do is go ahead and do a PowerPoint slide in order so you could take notes on all the different sections. But guess what? I'm not doing that. Number one, it takes too long. But number two, what I've always wanted to do was to give it to you in a lecture format. And that's what this is. And so if you're ever tuning in to Channel 8 or you've ever taken a class online or on TV, rather, they give it to you in a lecture format. So essentially what you have to do, I would wait, but this is a tape session, so I have to keep going. But what you would need in order to get the full benefit out of this particular lecture is you need a pen and some paper and take notes. One of the things that I said I would do, and I probably should not, but I don't care. I'm going to give you my primary email address. So if you have any questions on the content or if you want a copy of the script, this is the script. It's literally one page, and I just scribbled it down because these are concepts that I've been talking about for years. So, so it's really more so of what is your specific question is what I'm getting at. And so let me give you some more information, if you will. First, Houston Media Source is, it's your station or channel, if you will. And if you want to get involved in doing projects and producing projects, so on and so forth, you need to contact Houston Media Source to find out how you get involved. Now, with that said, I'm leading into something just as important, which is that for the not-for-profits, You know, one of the most important things that you could do is do something for someone else and do something for your community. So if you are a mentoring organization, if you are a strong not-for-profit organization, you know, not necessarily one of the major ones and not necessarily in startup mode and not necessarily a church. We have more than enough churches on HMS. There's more than enough people to help you with that. But I'm interested in helping out not-for-profits who would like to be interviewed in order to be on the channel. Also, beyond the regular not-for-profits, my artist. If you are an artist, you know, I enjoy helping artists because I'm also an artist. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on artists per se. But not-for-profits, you know, shoot me an email. And my email address is M as in Mark, Nash as in Nashville, Tennessee, 3 as in the number 3 at hotmail.com. Now, just to give you some more background information about me, I'm the president of God's Holistic Temple. And I'm pretty sure if you've seen some of my other videos, you would know that I'm not a Christian. Go figure, who would have thunk it, right? So, unfortunately, I couldn't find a religion that I kind of fit into, whether it was Jewish or Christian or Muslim or any of those religions. So, thank God for America, I decided to start my own religion. Now, I'm not necessarily recruiting right now. Maybe I'll do some recruiting for membership later. But for now, God's Holistic Temple, the concept is really dealing with a holistic approach to God, if you will. And the way I define God, God is the universal energy that runs through all of us. So in essence, we all are connected. We all are as one from that perspective. And when you're looking at a human being, there's other components that go with that. So spiritual or spirituality or spiritual energy is the way I would present it. Your spiritual energy is your connection to God, all right? From your spiritual energy, you have your mental energy. Your mental energy is just like it says, your think box, you know. You know, how do you process information? If you're in the psychology, your ego and your id type folks. So from your mental energy, you have your emotional energy, which is what you and I mostly deal with on a daily basis, which is how do we connect to each other? And from your emotional energy, you have your physical energy, which is your get in shape, your connection to others on a physical level, so on and so forth. But there's one energy that if you're in the United States, excuse me, my tie's a little tight, but if you're in the United States, there's another energy which is not necessarily part of the physical body that we all have to deal with, which is financial energy. You know, if your finances aren't right, it impacts every single aspect of your mind, body, soul, spirit, so on and so forth. So, you know, people go through depression when they don't have any money. Been there, done that. But finances, you know, later on, I'll probably talk about the 8 wealth management issues, which is something that's been released from a company in the next, actually, it's already been released, but I don't want to talk about that because I think we're going to talk about them in essence. Short version of a long story, 8 wealth management issues just talks about life, you know, life insurance, family risk management, investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, yada, yada, yada. But I'm going to talk about some very specific things, which is probably, well, not probably, but is included in those items. And so that's why I'm not going to touch that topic for now. I'll talk about that one later. And but here's the thing now, and the thing that I've learned over the years as well, which is that, you know, if you don't mind, I'm going to go and loosen my tie a little bit. I already got a little stage fright, but you got to be all right. All right, so, you know, the other thing to remember is that when we're talking about your spiritual energy, and this is something I've learned over the years, is that if you don't get your life right with God, nothing else really matters. You know, and as for how do you get your life right with God, you have to figure out what it is that works for you. Now, I'll tell you that there's 3 words that I work with a lot. And this is just, as far as I'm concerned, it's made my life so much easier. And those 3 words are acceptance. And when I talk about acceptance, I'm talking about looking at your past and saying, hey, it is what it is. You know, so what we all have to try to do is learn and accept our past. Live in the present, but still prepare for our future. So for those of you taking notes, I'm going to say that again. What we all have to try to do is learn and accept our past, live in the present, but still prepare for our future. And so, and when you think about it, it's all about living in the moment, but at the same time, you still have to prepare for your future. And I think that's what really makes it a little bit more complicated. And so that's dealing with the whole concept of acceptance, because when you look at it, that also talks about how we interact with each other. So if someone did you wrong, whether you like it or not, you have to accept it first. This is what that person has done to me. Now you have to go through forgiveness. Forgiveness is probably, along the lines of patience, one of the hardest life lessons you'll ever learn. Because forgiveness is it's not only about forgiving the other person, it's also about you forgiving yourself. You know, forgiving yourself for allowing it to happen, forgiving that person for being a moron, you know, forgiving yourself for putting yourself in that situation, forgiving that person for taking advantage of that situation. So you have to go through those levels of forgiveness. And then the third one is closure. Closure is just like it sounds. So closure can be anything. You know, in the past, they would always make the joke that closure was only for women. No, if you're human on this planet, closure is for you as well. And what I mean by that is closure is just like it sounds. It can be whatever it is that you want. It could be, hey, that person wronged me. I need to confront them. You know what? Or closure could be, you know what? I don't need to talk to them. I just need to talk to them on the phone, or I could send them an email, or I don't even need to deal with them. I could talk to a friend about this particular situation, and that just get it off my chest, and I'll feel better. Or I can do closure as in just write it in a journal or write a poem about it. Or somehow you have to release that energy out of your body in order to move on. Because the thing that I've learned over the years is that if you carry grudges, you're the only person who's being pained by that grudge. So, and here's the thing. Anger is not a negative emotion. Just like anything, it's the way you use it. You know, a gun is not a bad thing. But if that gun is used to do evil, to rob people, to steal from people, and to do negative things, then guess what? A gun is a bad thing. Well, that's the same thing when it comes to dealing with other people, you know, and when we come to closure, so on and so forth. So remember those three words. That'll help you out in a lot of situations: acceptance, closure, forgiveness. And the one that I usually work with in accordance with those three words, and I'll say them again for those who are taking notes: acceptance, forgiveness, and closure. And so is that, you know, writing it down is something that just helps out tremendously. So like I said, hello, I'm the president or teacher or whatever you want to call it for God's Holistic Temple. That's my religion, my faith, yada, yada, yada. So when I talk to people and they're like, so what religion are you? I tell them I'm holistic. All right. So the next thing that I do, I'm also the president of Nash Records. I'm an independent artist. So I sing, rap, do poetry, create my own beats, yada, yada, yada. Now, you might ask, why is it important that I mention that? Well, the reason being is because I'm also very passionate about making sure artists have the information that they need in order to succeed. And so when you're looking at art, meaning music, rap, hip-hop specifically, but any art really, there's two components that are very important that I think we always tend to leave out, which is that one, you need a quality product. If you don't have a quality product, then there's nothing for the public to buy. Just for the record, I've been there, done that. And it wasn't because I did not have a quality product. It was more so, well, I didn't have a quality product. So that's a long story. I'll tell you that story another time. And not only that, in sales, what I've learned is that it's not only the product and having a quality product, it's also about you. If you're a crappy person, no one wants to buy your product. That's what it boils down to. And so I know we live in a society that says glorifying drugs is cute and all of that. If that's the image and the persona that you want to put out to the public, I think that's fine. That's on you. But at the same time, for longevity, you read the news, so I ain't gonna bore you with that. Now, my other pet project, or a company, if you will, is Serene Professional Solutions. And so what I do for that is I do a lot of things, everything from internal audit to Sarbanes-Oxley, if you know what that is, audits, business processes. I do IT audits, financial audits. If it's something dealing with an audit, I'm pretty sure I've audited. So, but mostly, big companies, oil and gas companies, big four accounting firms, so on and so forth. Now, once again, you might be asking yourself, why is that important to me? Well, the reason why that's important to you is because I work for small companies and big companies. That's the reason why you should listen to this presentation, because I've seen what a big four accounting firm does in order to maximize revenues, if you will. And I've also seen what a small public accounting firm does that probably is just backwards. So we'll talk more about these things as we go. And what I'm trying to do is just lay the groundwork for these are the types of specific presentations that I'm going to be talking about more going into the future. But still, there's a lot of things that I'm going to talk about today that I want you to hear. So what you should have learned so far is that when we're looking at a person from a holistic perspective, they have a spiritual energy, mental, emotional, physical, and outside of them, but still impacts them, is their financial energy. And guess what? I talk about all four of those, not the fifth one, which is financial energy, on my website, markanash.com. If you go to that website and scroll down to life strategy ideas, I give you, 4 or 5 just individual web pages where I just talk about these different items and give you some big picture concepts that can help you. So go do that. And so, like I said before, for my business owners, this is not only about, meaning your 2-minute spiel, establishing credibility. This is trying to answer the question of why should your clients listen to you? So like for me, I've been an accountant or in the auditing profession or finance industry over a decade now. So a decade, as far as I'm concerned, is not a lot, but it's still enough to say that, hey, I could show you some different things from different perspectives. Now, so as for who are the different people who would benefit from this particular videotape that I'm going to talk about, I think I got maybe 30, 40 minutes left. I don't know if I'm going to talk that long because actually I plan on singing a little. For the people who would benefit specifically from this tape is that if you've ever been watching TV and you see things like, hey, do you want to own a home-based business? Do you want to be rich? Do you want to work from your home 2 hours a day and make a whole lot of money? Do you want to be your own boss? Well, guess what? Being self-employed is hard. So I'm not here to tell you or to sugarcoat it and say that you should not be self-employed, because sometimes it's by choice, sometimes it's by circumstance. What I'm here to tell you is that if you do choose the life of being self-employed, whether it's in sales or owning your own business, whether it's home-based or otherwise, then there's certain things that you need to know. Number one, it's hard. Number two, there's no such thing as working 2 hours. There's no such thing as I'm going to jump on the internet and I'm going to make a lot of money and people just going to give me money just because. No. There's no such thing as being your own boss. I'm here to tell you, if you're self-employed, you answer to somebody, even if it's just your customers. And customers, as you very well know, can be very demanding. So the first part is that to not sugarcoat what it means to be self-employed. That's the negative side. But the other side of it is that self-employed is an awesome experience. If you can stomach it. If you don't have the stomach for it, you need to go work for somebody else, all right? And there's nothing wrong with working for somebody else. I work for people all the time, whether it's self-employed or employee, because personally, I don't care. I enjoy what I do. But that's a different topic. And so the point of that story is to say that, when it comes to being self-employed, there are certain key things that you need to know. And the first one that I want to talk about is really the concept of money. Now, the concept of money, whether you're an individual, whether you're self-employed, whether you're in business, whether you're a small company, whether you're S corporation, C corporation, limited liability corporation, general partner, limited partner, doesn't really matter. The concept of money is still, at the end of the day, the most straightforward thing that I can ever tell you. So let me break it down for you for those who are new to the concept of business and interested in starting their own business. The concept of money is this, and also for those who are, working at a job, thinking long term. Either you make more money or you control your living expenses. Now, there's two fundamental statements. We ain't gonna talk about the cash flow statement and retained earnings statements and all of those type of things. We're gonna talk about two fundamental statements. Excuse me. There's an income statement, there's a balance sheet. Now, if you're dealing with an individual, sometimes they'll call it a cash flow statement, or you're dealing in real estate, sometimes they'll call it a cash flow statement. It really isn't, all right? Sometimes for individuals, when we're talking about the balance sheet for companies, they're referred to it as net worth, all right? So I'm hoping that these terms are starting to make sense to you now that you see them in the public. Now, the first thing, let me talk about a revenue. A revenue, I'm gonna give you the short version of it. Think of a revenue like ticket sales. You sell tickets, people give you money. That's revenue. If you sell widgets, people give you money. That's revenue. All right. But the thing that people don't really talk about is that at a job, you're selling your service and you're providing a service to a company, and a company is giving you money. For this purpose, I want you to think in terms of that is revenue. All right. Now, if you ever really took the time to look at a 1040, which is your tax return, federal tax return that we all have to do, your first section is all of your sources of income or money. I really prefer the term money over income, just for the record. And I'll tell you why in a second. All of your sources of money works like this. It can be from passive income like real estate, or if you're in the stock market, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. It could be from dividend income, from money just sitting in the bank, drawing interest. Well, actually, dividends coming from companies who've done well and want to give you their cut. That's what a dividend is, actually. Interest is just people borrowing your money, using it to do some stuff and paying you some interest since they've had the right to use your money. So that's interest. All of your sources from jobs, like the 12 jobs you had, all of your independent contracting gigs, all of those are all of your sources of income, all right? Well, all of your sources of money, if you will. And so that's money in terms of revenues. Now your expenses. For an individual, you got your mortgage, you got your house, you got your kids' education, yada, 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 all right? For a company, you got your payroll, you got your office space, office supplies, so on and so forth. So when we're looking at the long term, it still boils down to the fundamental concept of either you make more money, meaning earn more revenues, or you control your expenses. And so at the end of the day, if you're looking at an income statement, revenues minus expenses equals your profit or your loss, all right? Now, you'll see why I'm saying that in a second. So let me just take an aside real quick and answer the question of how do you make more money? All right, so we just talked about revenue. So if revenues minus expenses equals your profit or loss, I have to answer the question of how do you make more money? All right, so first of all, it depends on where you are, so whether you do income statement or balance sheet or net worth statement of financial position, whatever you want to call it. By the way, I'll talk to you about a balance sheet real quick. Assets equals your liabilities plus owner's equity. All right, so assets minus liabilities will equal your owner's equity. Now, you might say, Mark, all of that is gibberish. No, no, it ain't. Only thing I'm saying is that a good indication of what an asset would be cash in the bank. All right, if people owe you money from your business, we call that an accounts receivable. All right. If you own some, property, plant, or equipment that has a life expectancy greater than a year, that also will be part of the assets. Now, let's look at the liability side. The liability side is if you owe people, that's an accounts payable. If you borrowed some money in order to get your business off the ground, whether it's via credit cards or personal loans, yada, 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 you still owe those people. Those are liabilities, all right? That property, plant, and equipment, that big, nice manufacturing building that you bought, if you owe a note on that building that that you're buying, those are liabilities. So when we total up all of your assets and we subtract all of your liabilities, then that's going to be your owner's equity, not necessarily your profit. I've already explained profit. Profit is from normal operating activities for your particular business, all right? Now, so that's your balance sheet. Now, on the individual, we call it a net worth, all right? So your assets would be like your house, all right? But if you own a mortgage on that house, those are your liabilities, all right? That car, if you haven't paid that car off and you still owe a car note, that is a liability, all right? And so if you have jewelry or if you have furniture in your house, that also can contribute to your assets, if you will. If you have securities, whether it's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, so on and so forth, those also will be contributing to your assets, if you will, all right? So at the end of the day, your assets minus your liabilities is equal to your net worth. So I know that all sounds like gibberish, but here's the cool thing. I'm going to put the videotape on my website after it airs on the public access channel, and you can download this bad boy, and you can watch it to your heart's content and just review it over and over again and take notes on it. So I'm going to do something that's kind of spooky. I'm going to actually walk around and come up to see how much time I have left, but I'm not going to stop the tape. All right, I'm back. It looks like I have about 30 minutes left, and so I'm going to still sing something for you. That's the whole goal in all of this, but I want to keep it going. So I'm going to give you a quote from a really cool friend. Well, I'm not going to say friend, professor, rather. He says that your finances determine your net worth, not your self-worth, which is very important because so many of us, when we don't have money, we become depressed. And it's like, psh, bump that. Most of the people on the planet don't have any money. So why are you being freaking depressed? All right? So let's go back to the concept of revenues and expenses again. Because, I want to talk more so about how do you make more money? Get more education. I don't know how to describe it any more than that. Now, I know you might be saying, Mark, I don't get it. What do you mean get more education? All right, here's the thing. First of all, not most, but there are many of people who are like, you know what, Mark? I don't want to be self-employed. I like my job. And guess what? That's cool. Stay where you are because it's hard out here. You don't want to be self-employed. Stay where you are. But here's the thing that you do want to do. What you want to do is take a snapshot of where you are today, and you want to look out into your future. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're working at a job, right? Excuse me. You've been there 10, 15 years. It doesn't really matter. What you need to be asking yourself is, for this particular job, have I maximized the opportunity? Now, some people just wait for their annual raises or their bi-yearly raises or whatever. But at the same time, what you should take a look at is, would an additional license help me make more money? Meaning more education. If I go and get my master's degree, would that give me more money at this particular job? So essentially what you're doing is trying to see what is your marketability, meaning that if you go out into the labor force now, meaning go put your resume out there and see what the market would bear, could you get more money for your particular service that you're providing to this particular company? All right. And if the answer to that question is no, then you have two choices. Either you need to change jobs, meaning do a horizontal move in order to get your money up, or you need to change and leave that industry because you're probably in a dead-end job. All right. I know that hurts to say, but that's the reality. And actually, just for the record, I've been there. I was in a governmental job up north, and the cats down the hall was making $1 bazillion, at least as far as I was concerned. And I was in a dead-end job. So my choices were stay in Rochester, New York, or bring my butt back to Houston, Texas. I'm nice to be back home in the great state of Texas. So when we're talking about making more money, that's what we're referring to, all right? So let's look at some other ways of making more money. You can always take a side job. But here's the thing that I always tell people. Why would you want to work 2 jobs? I want you to think about that. Why would you want to work 2 jobs? Now, the job that you're at is already at a pain in the butt. Now, don't get me wrong. Working 2 jobs is not a bad deal if it's only a temporary move. You're going to do it for a month or 2. But just for the record, that's not something that's sustainable. All right? So what you want is a job that has unlimited revenue, or income potential, which would be sales. So, all right? So if you look at the top people across the world, the people who are the richest have certain things in common. They have either passive income investments, or they're business owners, or they've done some type of sales. All right? So in essence, what I'm trying to tell you is that the biggest investment that you can make is in yourself, all right? Because when we're talking about being self-employed, there's so many skill sets that you have to develop. And no, I'm not saying quit your job right now and go and try to develop these skills. No, these things take time, and it's baby steps, all right? So to be in sales or to have your own business or any of that stuff, you're going to have to develop your leadership skills, your communication skills, your technology skills, your reading skills. If you're not reading, it's going to be hard to compete as a self-employed person, because you got to stay up on your competition. You got to stay up on your particular industry, and you got to strive to be the best at what you do. You know, and it doesn't matter what industry we're talking about, whether we're talking about entertainment as it relates to rap music, or music videos and production, or being a financial advisor, or being a not-for-profit. Not-for-profit is to some degree even harder, because it's harder to raise capital for those type of deals. You have to do mostly fundraising and pray that people are going to donate money to you. So that's a different topic, but I'll talk more about not-for-profits later on. But for now, just understand being self-employed is a lot of fun, but understand what you're getting yourself into. Now, there's certain things that people do when it comes to being self-employed that's really tough, I would say, which is that they jump out there and say, hey, I'm going to be self-employed. Okay, you got a strategy? Or you just going to wake up one morning and be self-employed? You need to have a strategy, all right? So I'm going to backtrack for a second and once again answer that one question one more time. How do you make more money? You make more money through getting more education. And the way you get more education is either you go to more training for your particular company, you do networking events where you learn from your peers, you go back to college, or you go to community college, doesn't matter. Everything that relates to getting more money relates to getting more education, because the more knowledgeable you are about yourself and your products and your services, the more you understand how to interact with the environment, the more you have an opportunity to sell your particular product or service. And remember, the knowledge is only one part of it. You know, there's an old saying that says knowledge is power. But then a person corrected that person and said, no, knowledge is power, but, you know, the application of knowledge is actually the power. All right, so meaning learn it, now let's go ahead and apply it. Now, the one thing that I was talking about is people waking up one morning and saying, yo, I'm self-employed. Yeah, that's okay if that's by circumstance. But if that's by choice, I think you're going about it the hard way. So what I like to talk about is business financing. How do you get your projects financed? All right, and here's the thing that if you're watching TV, they always talk about, oh, there's all of these secrets. No, there aren't. I mean, we could talk in terms of all of these secrets, but the reality is there aren't any secrets. All right, the way you get your business financed, there's really only 5 ways, as far as I'm concerned, at least. You have, well, 6 maybe, and I'll talk about that in a second. You have angel investors, These are people who are saying, hey, you know what? You're a really nice person. We'll invest in your business. All right. These are people you don't know, obviously. You have venture capitalists, and depending on the deal, which there could be good deals, bad deals. Some venture capitalists are known as vultures, yada, yada, yada. And a venture capitalist is just saying, hey, you have a great business idea. I think I can make a lot of money off of it. And I get 80%, you get 20%. And you're like, well, hold up. What was the point of me becoming self-employed if I'm going to give you all the money? All right. So I ain't going to say don't stay away from venture capitalists. I'm just going to say be careful in the deals that you make. All right. The next item is credit cards. Yeah, credit cards. That's how I finance mine, So I'm at a point where, the credit cards are not as big a factor. I think my consumer debt is closer to maybe $1,000 on all credit cards. And I started off with I think at one point I had about $30,000 in credit card debt. So now I'm down to about $1,000. So, but that's another story in itself. I ain't gonna bore you with that one, not yet at least. Personal loans, meaning that these are different ways that you try to finance your business. And family and friends. Now, if you can avoid family and friends, avoid it. I would prefer you take a credit card before you damage a relationship with a family or a friend. If you do the family and friend route, it has to be in writing. You need to pay these people an interest rate, and you need to pay them on time. Even if you don't pay anybody else on time, you need to pay your family and friends because there's no substitute for that particular relationship. And you don't want a relationship to go sour just over money because money comes, money goes. That's another thing you need to understand. There's no relationship worth ending because of money. That's a different topic. I'll talk about that another time, of course, if y'all want me to. And the other source of financing a project gets very involved very quickly. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it beyond just saying there's corporations, S corporations, limited liability companies, general partners who don't have any money, but they do the work, and limited partners invest in the company. All of that is a lot of paperwork. So like I said at the beginning of this particular show, The World According to Mark, this show is mostly geared towards people who are at step one. They woke up one morning, understood that they didn't want to work for someone else the rest of their life, and decided they wanted to start a business. So those are other ways, limited liability companies, corporations, S-Corp. Those are a lot of paperwork, which is okay, but in order for that to work, you have to have a team. There's no way around it. You have to have a lawyer on your team. You have to have an accountant on your team. Of course, you can call me. I'll be your business advisor. And you have to have a team because there's so much to be done. And you got to have someone doing your sales and marketing and PR. You have to have someone doing your technology, finance and administration, your payroll. I mean, the list goes on. You got to be organized at a larger scale in order for those to work. All right, I think I probably got about 12 or 13 more minutes left, but I'm going to keep going. So we talked about business financing in your 5 sources, or 6. Angel investors, banks, credit cards, personal loans, family and friends, and if you have enough people on your team, going with a different business model than being a sole proprietor. All right, so the next little baby I ran across that I thought was so cool is Project Triangle. It's something I ran across on the internet, and I enjoyed the concept so much that I want to share it with you. And I'm going to break down to you how I do the Project Triangle, if you will. So if you were to make a triangle, and at the top of the triangle, you put the scope, and at the one end of the triangle, you put cost, and another leg of the triangle, you put time. You see this triangle is at this level. Now, if you notice, if I make the triangle bigger, then the scope, meaning based on the scope, if you have a larger scope, then the project gets larger. It takes more time and it costs more money. Now, the reason why that's important is because this is a classic statement of why small businesses fail. Their scope is too big. A guy woke up one morning and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to start me a corporation. I'll be the next, Walmart, Microsoft, whatever. And it was like, okay, well, how many people on your team? Oh, just me. Okay, we'll work with you. That's a pretty broad scope for the new business that you want to start. We'll work with you. But the problem wasn't the scope. The problem was the timeline. He was like, oh, I want to have this done in 3 months. Okay, 3 months, that's cutting it pretty fast, and cost, I have no money. It's like, wait a minute, let me make sure I understand this. You're trying to start a corporation. You want it up in 3 months, but you don't have any money. And you don't have any access to raise the capital in order to kick off this project. Maybe you need to rethink that particular strategy. And so I want to share with you how I do my projects. I scope it out and say, okay, well, in a big picture world, this is what I would really like to accomplish. And so I'm going to talk more about that in a second. So I scope it out as in the big picture, this is what I would like to accomplish. And so the first item that I do is I deal with time. And it was so interesting that a little while ago, a person was like, you know what, you're never going to get caught up. And when you think about it, as a society, whether we're very busy or just in general, we're never going to get caught up. So the goal is not really to get caught up. The goal is really to prioritize your tasks. All right, I'm going to say that again for those who are taking notes. The goal really isn't to get caught up. The goal is to prioritize your task, and not only prioritize your tasks, but prioritize the most important task. And not only prioritize the most important task, prioritize the most high value added tasks. Give you a short story of a long story. A short story of a long story. People are like, how come you don't get outside and cut your yard? Number one, I'm not any good at it. Number two, I don't like doing that type of stuff. And number three, there's somebody who can do it better at a cheaper rate. So I'm gonna give a hypothetical. These are not my actual numbers. If the services that I provide, I actually make like $500 an hour, does it make sense for me to go out and cut my yard at $25 an hour? No. What it makes sense for me to do is to work on trying to get more $500 an hour projects. Now, give you an example. A rapper wakes up and says, hey, you know what? I can go out here and I can create beats, but I'm not any good at it. So it would make sense for the rapper to hire someone to make the beats and for him to go ahead and create his lyrics so he can rap over the beats. All right? Except for me. I actually like making beats, whether they're any good or not. So you'll see that when you go to my website, markanash.com. So when we're talking about prioritizing tasks, what I use is pretty much, I'm pretty sure the rest of the world uses some email manager like Outlook or whatever. I actually use Outlook. But I ain't saying go buy Outlook. Don't go buy anything. I'm telling you, this is what I use. I'm sharing with you how I manage tasks. And the way the tasks are set up, you can actually customize it for the different categories. And so I really just categorize a lot of stuff. If it's something that's related to the house, I say contact the exterminator for the house, and I put a date on it. And that's really it. I have a bunch of tasks. If you do not have a things to do list, then you're not prioritizing. And the reason why I say use electronic devices, whether it's a Palm Pilot or whatever, is because you have to get used to technology, and life moves fast. So you got to get used to changing dates, so on and so forth, so you can go on and do what you need to do. And something that I was like, okay, well, I need to go to training on this. Well, I can't do that now. I need to reschedule. Well, it's a lot easier to do that electronically than it is for you to be writing down stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. You can print out your things to do list, and then, mark off what you've completed or whatever. But I still think that's the hard way. So for more information on that, you can email me. So the next thing that I do is manage costs. Now, I'm going to give you the short version on this one, of course, because this one is a lot of fun, and I have to actually teach you how to do it. I tried to just send out an email and tell everybody the instructions, but it doesn't work that way. I literally have to teach you how to do this. And what it is financial forecasting, all right, or cash flow management, or I like to think of it as managing your lifestyle. And what I'm referring to is this. If you're the type of person that when a bill arrives to your house, whether it's business or personal, and you look at that bill and you say, okay, well, can I pay this bill? Yes. You go ahead and write the check, you're done. Or the bill comes in, can I pay this bill? No. You set it to the side. Can I pay this bill? No. You set it to the side. If that's the extent of your managing your particular lifestyle, I think you're doing it the hard way. What I do is I use just a regular Excel spreadsheet, and at the top I have a list of expenses, broken down by categories, but I'll tell you that another time. You have all the different categories. These are all of my potential sources, meaning expenses, projects that I would like to do, trips that I would like to take, and I forecast for the entire year. Then at the bottom, I say, these are all of my potential sources of income. Oh yeah, Leroy owes me a couple of dollars. John owes me a couple of dollars. I got some self-employment projects that I'm working on. I expect I'm gonna sell a couple of CDs. I put all of that into the forecast for the entire year. And so what happened, all of my bills, mortgage, car, credit, whatever. So you have your expenses and you have all your sources of money or revenue. And the difference between that tells whether you're going to be short or you're going to have a surplus, meaning surplus or deficit. And you forecast that out for the entire year. So if you know that you're going to be short in July, then you need to find the money now. You don't need to wait until July to know that you're going to be late on your mortgage. You see what I'm saying? So like I said, that's one that I'm going to have to just teach you. So send me an email. I'll teach you. I don't mind. Now, the next one is... Actually, I'm going to do this to you one more time. I promise this is the last time. Let me check the time real quick. All right, my bad. I got 10 minutes. And so in 10 minutes, I'm going to tell you about a couple of things, and then I'm just going to end, really. Like I said, first, the overall concept is you need to have a vision for your life. Your vision can be anything. It could be like a mission statement for your company to be the best whatever, or it could be, I dream of being the greatest gymnast on the planet. Whatever your vision is, you need to start with that vision. You need to have a vision for your life, whether we're talking about career, we're talking about business, or we're talking about personal, all right? So that's the first thing. From that, from that vision, your vision to some degree doesn't really have to be reasonable. Excuse me. But from your vision, what you have to do is develop your goals. And your goals should be measurable and achievable, all right? Don't say you want to make $10 billion by the end of the year and you only selling, widgets. It's not that it's not doable, it's just highly unlikely. You want to start off, maybe sell 100 widgets by the end of the year, all right? So that's something that's measurable and it has a deadline associated with it. You can get it done by December 31st. So from your goals, you develop your action plan. Your action plan is where you analyze your human resources as well as your financial resources. This lets you know if you need to develop a formal business plan, if you're trying to get financing from an angel investor or a venture capitalist, or you go into a bank where you're trying to get a personal loan or a credit card or even a business loan. Many of these people want a business plan. But here's the thing that most people don't tell you. What is really the purpose of the business plan? Sure, it's important for you to lay out your strategy, but it's really more so for other people to understand your strategy. And if we're investing in your particular company, we want to know how we're going to make our money back. What is your strategy for, we loan you 50 grand, how are we going to get our money back? Are you going to sell, 400,000 CDs this first coming year, and that's how we're going to get our money back? So that's the details of a solid action plan, analyzing not only the financial side, but also moving over into the sales and marketing side in order to help support the financial side. And that's where you're going to answer all of the questions like, who's on your team? So do you have a lawyer on your team, a business advisor, a financial advisor, so on and so forth? Who's doing the accounting, so on and so forth? All right. So from your action plan, a plan means absolutely nothing. As far as I'm concerned, a plan doesn't have to be 400,000 pages long, because if it is, no one is going to read it and no one is going to follow it, and you're not going to review it. See what I'm saying? So for that action plan, you got to execute. And as part of execution, you got to monitor, because you have to monitor the execution to make sure it's in accordance with the plan, which is in accordance with the goal, which is in accordance with the overall vision. So that's what that is all about. I'm going to change subjects on you real quick, because like I said, I always get ticked off when people throw out a whole bunch of stuff and don't tell me something specific that I can do. One of the things is dealing with debt management, meaning consumer debt specifically. If you have a lot of consumer debt, here's two things that you can do. First of all, if a person ever asks you to make a financial journal, meaning a written one, they're idiots. Don't listen to them. All right, I'll tell you that story another time. But for debt management, there's really only two major strategies as far as I'm concerned. One, you make a list of all of your consumer debt, who you owe, and the interest rates, all right? And as part of writing down all of that, you post it around your house. And then you just make a deadline that, hey, you're going to knock off this one, this one, this one, and this one. All right? So that's one. That way you're constantly reminded of which balances that you're trying to knock off. You could put them in order from highest to lowest, from lowest to highest, whatever is comfortable for you. Me, I started off doing, I think, lowest to highest. But I found that once I paid off the little small balances, I would just run them back up. So let me double check one more time. It looks like they're trying to tell me I only have a couple more minutes. Hold up. Ooh, I got 4 minutes. All right, so debt management, make a list, pay them off, all right? The second thing is you can when you make your list, you can put the lowest, highest balances first and make a target goal to knock off each one. And as you knock them off, go ahead and strike them off on the list, all right? Just contact me for that one, mnash3@hotmail.com, and I can tell you some more ideas about how to get your debt down. Sometimes you might need to take a personal loan. Make sure you call the people, meaning call the credit card companies, how to fight stuff that's on your credit card, all of that good stuff. So, and I actually wrote that in one of my newsletters. So, like I said, that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna end with this specific statement. What you need to do, this is your homework right now. Determine what knowledge or education is necessary to accomplish the goal that you're trying to accomplish. So I said all of that, and I guess I should sing you a song before I leave, huh? Just take one look at me. I am happy as can be. Don't you wish that you could be in love like me? Y'all have a good evening. I'm out. That's so wonderful, wonderful as can be. And I fall in love forever and a day. And that's all I gotta say. Peace. I'm out.